everyone, welcome back to our training videos here at 31ABC. This one is the first in a little mini series talking about our specific courseware and how to teach it, how to place the students in the correct levels. So this video will be talking about our elementary level classes. It's divided into 3 parts, as are the rest of our levels as well, with the exception of our master levels, which are only divided into 2 sections. But we'll get into that a little bit later. So here are elementary levels. I want to spend a little bit of extra time talking about them because I feel like a lot of our students will start out at one of that part of those levels. And it's super, super important to set that strong base foundation for them as their classes will get more and more difficult. So let's go ahead and get started and see how we do. But before we take a look right at the specific courseware and the parts of it and how to teach them, I want to focus on how to know if a student is placed in the correct level. When a trial class gets put onto our schedule, they're already assigned a level based on what the sales team thinks is appropriate. However, we have the opportunity to decide if that was correct or if we could be adjusting it a little bit. And then in our trial reports, make the official recommendation. So when we're looking at a student to see if they're in the correct level, you want to think right from the get-go if they're in that level correctly or not. So at the very beginning, asking them questions about themselves, not only are we learning about their personalities and whatnot, but we're also trying to figure out if they can answer our questions correctly to see if the level is adequate. So things I like to ask for lower level students might be their age. Some students will get confused when I say, "How are you?" They'll say, "I am 6." So that might be a little bit of a marker of something we need to work on. But anyways, age, sometimes their favorite color is a good one as well. Also, one I use all the time is asking if they have siblings. A lot of students that are maybe in between levels will get confused specifically by this question, and it's really helpful for me to know where they stand. Students will get the words siblings and cousins confused. So if a student can grasp that idea of siblings right away and respond back to you, we are in the clear. We know that they are in a higher end of that level. So things like that, age, color, siblings. You can ask them maybe about their favorite food or what they ate that day. Weather is another really good one. All kinds of ideas, but keeping it simple enough, but still testing their knowledge and seeing how they do. So another thing I like to notice too, if you see that a student is responding specifically in single word answers throughout the lesson, then they're definitely not ready for anything higher in intermediate or definitely not advanced. Because as the levels continue, it is imperative that they answer in complete sentences. So that should be our goal. If we see a student who struggles to answer in complete sentences, obviously we want to try to get that happening as soon as we can. So I like to use super simple 3-worded sentences. We don't want to bombard their poor brains with long, drawn out, complex sentences. Simple things like, "I am good. This is a train," things like that. Additionally, if you notice that a student is sitting right with their mom and their mom is responding to every single question, and it becomes more of a repeating game for their children, we know that they might need to be in a lower level as well, only because we have to make sure that we hear them speaking. And if they can't speak, then we know that they might need some backup reinforcements on that one. Additionally, if you see a student is answering in more than 1 word, but it's still not a complete sentence, then you want to make sure that they're in one of those lower levels as well, only to, again, build that foundation. But there will come some times where a student is maybe between a level, you're not quite sure where to put it. That's okay. But please, 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 if you're in doubt, put them in that lower level for a couple of reasons. One, again, that foundation. If they're a little rocky, it's okay. That foundation building will get them stronger as time goes on. But also, it is a lot easier to move a student up in a level then move them back down later. So again, if we're in doubt with the levels, stick with the lower level and we'll see where they go from there. Additionally, too, one of the gauges I like to use a lot is how I finish the courseware in the trial class. So let's say I am teaching a level 1 trial class or elementary level there trial class, and I finish right smack on time, perfect timing, then they're probably in the correct level. But if you notice you finished way beforehand and the student has responded perfectly in complete sentences, obviously that's a telltale sign that they can move up. But if you notice you are at minute 26, and it is about time to start wrapping things up and you haven't made it through the majority of the courseware in a trial class, it's probably a good indicator that they need to be brought down into the level below. And that's totally okay. In our trial classes reports, you can find an area to do so, as mentioned in our previous videos. So those are just some of the tips and tricks that I've noticed and have helped me to get that right level placement for the students. But why don't we go ahead and get into some of the exact courseware to see how we can teach each one of the levels. So we're going to start out with the beginning part of the elementary level courses. And this level is specifically special because it actually alternates differently than the rest of the courseware will. So they'll be divided, it will alternate, like I said. So the one will talk about specific vocabulary, not very many vocabulary words, but basic vocabulary, where the next lesson will pick out a specific letter from the alphabet and focus solely on that letter with some small vocabulary words here and there, helping again with the pronunciation of that letter, with recognizing it and using it in sentences and things like that. So let's go ahead and take a look. I'll share my screen with you guys so you can see it. All right, so if you notice here, you can see, I will get it highlighted here for you. All right, so this is how we know at the beginning of each one of your early elementary level courses, you're going to have this teacher's guide page here. And this is only for us to see at the beginning of a class. I actually switched to the next page before the student comes in. But here is how you know that it will be a letter focused lesson. Here, our objective is to pronounce the sound of S with, again, those words seal, sun, soap, and socks. However, if you were to look at the lesson just prior to that, session 1, you can see it looks a little bit different. Here we have recognizing the name of the house parts: house, window, door, and wall. So it alternates again back and forth between the two, which I find really helpful because I think learning straight letters might get a little bit monotonous for those younger students. So this one works out really well. But let's go ahead and take a look at one of the letter lessons and see how would we go about teaching it and the different sections that we would find. So, and this page that you're seeing also is not the exact page you would be using while you're teaching your classes. It'll be in an actual platform that we'll be talking about here in just a little while in one of the other videos. But for now, you can take a look at some of the courseware information. So early elementary levels start with a welcome song. I personally don't like to play the welcome song on each one of my regular classes with the same student, only because 1, it gets a little bit monotonous, and 2, a lot of parents actually prefer not to watch many videos during classes because they tend to think that they can watch those videos on their own time. They want to take advantage of the fact that we, their teacher, are there to help them out. So I'll play the video once or maybe twice in their regular classes as they continue on, and then eventually we'll just say a regular hello. But after that, they have a chance to show you their homework. Now, early elementary classes are the main ones that have homework. They actually have a specific workbook that 3-1-ABC will send to them, and gives you a chance to make sure that they're on the right page, that they were able to review the lesson well, and then you can proceed on pretty quickly from there. So after that, this is the review from our last class. So these are the words that they should have learned in their last session. And it can go pretty quick, just making sure that they remember the words and then you can move on to today's information, which here starts with the lead-in video. So it gives you a couple seconds too as a teacher to kind of gather your thoughts and also to see how the student will react to the letter that you're going to be learning. So after the video, it comes in a chance to play around a little bit. This is your first game that you'll experience with your students. The idea here is to go back and forth with your voices and changing pitch and tone, teaching the S in its capital and lowercase form. So I like to mess around and say big S, and they'll repeat big S. And then again, little S, things like that. Also, this next slide here starts to get them with the idea of patterns and seeing relations here in sequences. So again, they can use their big voice and their little voice to tell you what is missing. And you can notice also up here at the top, these simple 3-word questions and 3-word sentences are really what we want to try to stick with so that we're not overwhelming them with some of this information. So far, so good. We're doing really well here. The student is breezing through the lesson. That's great. You want to make sure to, during these moments, maybe even on the last slide, you can use a little bit of TPR as well, whether it be, a hand movement up here with your hand over your ear, or whatever the case may be. Please make sure it's consistent. That will help the student a lot to kind of get used to, one, you and your teaching style, but also what they want to know what you expect from them. And if we're consistent, it's a lot easier for them to realize what we're expecting of them. For example, and I'll stop sharing for just a quick second so you can see me in a big screen. If we're teaching a word or even a letter in this case, I personally will, when I am speaking it, I point to my mouth so they know to focus. And they're automatically drawn to the fact that my finger is near my mouth. So like S, right? And then their cue that they're ready to repeat and I'm ready to listen to them repeating is up here. So we want to make sure that we keep that consistency so that if it comes a time where they're not sure what we just said, or they're not sure what we want them to do, our motions will get them flowing. So let's go ahead and get back into the swing of things here. All right, so we have a couple slides of these patterns, but afterwards, it comes to the vocabulary section. Again, just 4 vocabulary words, but this page is only an introduction. So we don't want to actually teach these 4 words on this page. It's just to kind of give them an overview. So I might read through them once. I do not expect them to repeat them on this page because we are going to go through each one specifically. So this, again, is an introduction, not of the letter S, rather of the S sound. So it gives them a chance to repeat it, and also gives their little brains a break from those pattern slides from before. So here, for example, is that first video, or that first slide rather, to give you that chance of teaching the word. So again, TPR, consistent, right? Seal, and then they'll repeat it back to you. So this will go through each one of those words, but we also have a video starting of the chant. Now, it always will have that same rhythm. You'll get very, very used to it. But in between each one of the vocabulary words, it gives them a chance to repeat it over and over again. So you want to take this time to practice with them and make sure that they are good on pronunciation, make sure that they have proper sense stress, things like that. And then the idea is at the end of the lesson, they're going to take all 4 of those vocabulary words and put it all together in that same type of chant. So it's important that they get each one of those words one by one. So it'll take them through, again, here's sun. Again, that same idea, chanting with the sun. Soap, the chant with the word soap. Socks, chant with the word socks. So we see that pattern there for us as teachers to kind of be ready and to know what's going to come next. Now here is our next little game that we can play with them. Again, these really handy dandy sentences and questions that you have at the top, you can just read them straight to your students. Can you find sun? Or can you find the sun would also be acceptable. And if you notice, there's going to be, it might be hard for them to tell you which one it is. If that's the case, I'll take my pen in the platform and I'll just simply write 1 or 2. So again, here using your gestures will really help if the student is lacking language ability or vocabulary. For example, can you find sun? You know, or doing something simple with your hands to let them know what you might be talking about. And then again, when I show them the options, you know, can you find sun? 1 or 2? You know, and don't be afraid to move around, use your whole teaching space. That'll keep them entertained, but it'll also help them differentiate between what you're expecting of them. So we have a couple one of these, again, just practicing and getting them used to the words. So at the end of here, we're getting towards the end. This is our review chant. So this is their time to shine. They have an opportunity to put together everything they've learned in this whole lesson and say them all together, which is super awesome. So we don't always have a ton of time to spend on these, but we want to try to run through it at least so they can get the pronunciations correct. And it can help sometimes too in the elementary levels. If the chant is super long for a student, you can actually type the answers on the screen. And that will help out a little bit as well in case they forget the order of the words or whatever the case may be. So after our review chant here, we have our wrap up, super simple. We're not meant to have the students read through these pages. This is my opportunity to let the student know how well they did and how happy I am for them. Also, if their parents are there, it's my chance to maybe mention some of the things I think they could work on, you know, little things here and there, just to kind of wrap everything up in a nice little bow here. So after that, you have the homework section. Now, again, this is a special part of the elementary units where they do have homework in an actual workbook. So I like to pull the page number up here so they can see it, let them know. And if they can, show me the page in their own workbook so we know that we've communicated it correctly. And then after that, you're going to have a chance, and I'm not going to show it here because it looks a little bit different, but you'll have a chance to give our students their special surprise, as I like to call it, which is the culmination of all of their stars, and it turns them into 3-1 ABC coins. So we'll take a look at that in one of our later videos as well, as far as the platform goes. But I like to call it the special surprise. So you'll hear me saying that a lot throughout the next few videos. But it just gives a chance for the students to have a reward and be excited about all of their efforts. So that's the beginning of the elementary levels. But just really quickly, I want to go through some of the later parts of the elementary levels because there are some different aspects that we want to take a look at. So let's go ahead and get into that one. We'll take a look. We'll come out of level 0 of that earlier elementary level, and we'll hop right into just a good middle section of the elementary levels 2 and 3 parts. So it's going to start out usually with a review section, just like the one prior to it. But this one isn't going to focus on vocabulary words so much as it is forming sentences that we learned last time. So here, this first box is a question that we can use to ask them. It's just a guideline, though, to help them get that sentence out of their mouths. Because again, our goal with them is to get them speaking in full sentences as quickly as they can. So it'll just, excuse me, it'll just give them a chance to also get primed and get ready to go. And of course, this is after some of our warm-ups and asking them how they are, asking them what they did today, things like that. Now, after our review, we go straight into our vocabulary sections. Now you can see that these vocabulary words are sometimes phrases, and they are definitely longer than the earlier sections of the elementary levels. So Usually they're between 4 to 6 vocabulary words in each class. And you can actually click here in the platform as well to make the words bigger. But for example, have a party, make a wish, again, using TPR consistently to make sure the kid knows what they're expected of. And so after we get through the vocabulary words, I might go through them 1 or 2 times, depending on how quickly the student grasps. One of the things I like to do as well, super quickly, right after we go through it and we teach each word, I'll say, okay, let's try, quick, quick, quick. And they know it's their chance to read the words as fast as they can and see how they do. And so it's a change of pace for them as well. But moving on, we have our word practice. So here is where they get their first taste of coming up with those vocabulary words on their own. So I like to start with a question, maybe where do you see, and I give them the vocabulary word. For example, where do you see gift? And they can say letter B, or I'll have them answer in a complete sentence. I see gift in letter B, for example. After they've gotten the answer on the first one, you can click this little rotate button and it changes the pictures. So again, I try to go through, depending on the time, I try to go through as many cards as I can and try to get them practicing as much as possible. Also, if you want to make it a little bit more difficult, I'll change it around. And instead of me giving them the vocabulary word, I want them to say it back to me, saying, okay, what is letter C? And then they'll bring up that vocabulary word, which is definitely harder than the former one. So just a few different ideas here. Going on after that is the chant is back. Again, it's going to be that same rhythm that we had in the earlier levels of the elementary classes. But this time it focuses specifically on our vocabulary words. So again, if you need to, you can write the words on the screen in the order that they come. You can repeat it as many times as you need to. But the point is to get their pronunciation correctly and to get that word flowing and get them used to saying it with their tongue. So after the chant is done, then we have another little bit of word practice, and these patterns are back. So they're back and on steroids. So a couple sentences I try to teach my students right off the bat, again with consistency, is what's the pattern and what is missing? What is missing? All right. So when I start with the sentence, what's the pattern? I usually go for a super simple box of some kind or a circle in the platform to ask them what it is so that they know what I want them to say when I ask for the word pattern. And I teach them then the sentence, the pattern is, and this is a super cool opportunity that we have here as coaches, that even though the word pattern, for example, isn't in our courseware, after consistently using it over a period of time, the students are going to start learning those supplementary words, which is super, super cool to see their progress. It's one of my favorite parts, actually, of teaching it. And it lets you know that what you're doing is working. So here, again, what's the pattern and what is missing? That's what we want to stick with in these 2 parts. Make sure they are answering in complete sentences. That's a huge, huge issue for a lot of English learners, as you guys are well aware. So we have 2 of these practice opportunities, and then we move into our sentences. And this is where it gets really juicy, if you will. We have a question, and here is what the student is supposed to answer. Now, you'll notice these red words, which are our target words. It lets us know as a coach what we're hoping the student will say in future sentences as well. And it also shows the student the importance of them. So for example, here, what is the boy doing? Gives them a chance to read, also gives them a chance to see what that sentence pattern will be like. Because in the next sentence, it doesn't give them, it doesn't give them the whole answer. So question is the same, what is he doing? But this time they'll have to fill in the blanks. You can direct them to the picture, whether it be of an arrow, whatever you'd like to do to help them see what they're supposed to, how they're supposed to guide their thoughts. But we have quite a few of these sentence practices, lots of opportunities to give stars and to give them commendation, to really get, we'll say, down to the nit and gritty of their sentences and vocabulary. So once we get through the sentence portion, we come into the dialogue section, which is where I personally will take out my puppet. I have a little puppet down here. His name is Charlie. So we take him out and the students will play with him. They'll talk to him going through these dialogue sections. So again, it starts off giving them the exact example that they should be using, but it starts taking away words as you continue through. So if a student is struggling specifically with it, then I'll definitely write down these answers as they're saying them. But a lot of the students are moving so quickly by this point that it's not necessary to write down each and every answer. So just keep that in mind as we're going through these, but have fun with it, because this is also when students were getting in there, you know, maybe at the 20-minute mark by the time we start our dialogue section, and they're ready to get up and move around. So this gives us a chance to make things a little bit fun, change the pace, change it around, change our tones, change our character, really do whatever your heart desires to make it fun and exciting for them and make it memorable as well. So we have quite a few of these dialogue slides as well, but again, change it up every once in a while, even take advantage and let the student ask you the question. So I'll do, or ask your puppet in that case. I'll have them ask, for example, we can use this one as a quick showing. So here's Charlie, right? And I'll say, okay, can you ask Charlie the question? And then Charlie will go through after hearing the question. He is, I don't know. Can you help me? And they get really excited because now they get to help the teacher, if you will. So just good opportunities, good teaching opportunities there for them. But once the dialogue sections have concluded, we have the role play, which allows them the most freedom that they'll see in their whole lesson. It gives them a chance to really take a look at the picture, and you can even make the boxes go away. So if you notice a student is super advanced and ready to go, you can just have them talk and ask what they're doing, what they think is happening. Is it fun? Are they enjoying themselves? Things like that. So overall, we have a couple of those role plays, and then our optional slide. Now, the optional slide is exactly as it sounds, completely optional. If we have extra time, we can help them with that same sentence pattern in a different situation. But our goal for this one is to get students talking. So whether it be, what do you see? What is happening? Or what color are the blocks? You know, whatever the case might be, whatever question you see fit. But it also could give them an introduction to opinions or abstract ideas, which is going to be super important in the later levels. But for example, on this page, you could say, who is this? Let me say, this is a girl. Okay, who is this? Gives them a chance to learn, oh, sister, right? Or mother as well. So depending on how much time you have, you can of course gauge the deepness of the questions you're going to ask. So very at the end here, it gives us, again, a wrap up. One more time, we're not meant to read through these or to have the students repeat what they've just spent half an hour learning. Rather, I sometimes will ask them what their favorite word was, or if they have any questions for some of the more advanced students. But again, I use this as an opportunity to commend them, to let them know how happy I am for them or how proud I am. And then if I notice any little tiny things that we want to correct, then I use this moment to remind them of that. And then at the very end, we'll have, again, our opportunity for those special surprises, where those stars will convert into 3-1-ABC coins, which we'll see in a later video. But overall, these levels can be really fun. And a lot of the times the kids are super, super sweet, so, and ready and full of energy. So I tried to match their energy and even go up above and beyond a little bit, especially because those younger kids, the younger the kid is, the more energy we want to have to make sure and keep them entertained, and to make sure that they can get used to that longer class setting. One of those things that helps me keep my students entertained, as we've already seen, is my puppet Charlie here, or any slew of teaching aids or teaching friends that you can have. But the puppet usage can really help or hurt our classes. So I wanted to spend a couple seconds here just mentioning how we can use puppets to enhance the quality of our classes instead of hurting it a little bit. So I use my puppet when it comes to general learning or positive reinforcement, or even some healthy punishment. So for example, if I notice a kid is misbehaving or is not wanting to talk or just, not wanting to participate at all, I'll bring out my puppet and start to have class with Charlie. And once they see Charlie getting stars, they are very excited to start. And they're like, wait, no, I want to try. So you can see that was a very effective way to use your puppet. Also general learning, like I mentioned earlier in the dialogue portions, just some ideas. And so one of the things too, some people will bring their puppets in as teachers, or a teacher helper or whatever the case may be. But if you consider bringing your puppet in as a student, it really opens you to a world of different opportunities. And instead of the student coming with the idea of superior, if you will, they're right at the same level. So it'll give them a chance to maybe correct the puppet a little bit, or they'll feel a little bit more comfortable. So it's just an idea. But also, I use this opportunity to see if a student can correct me, or if a student can correct Charlie. And if that's the case, then they've mastered the learning topic, which is awesome. So if they can figure out a way to teach you or to correct you, then you've done your job in teaching them. So a good principle to live by is to try to test what the student can do before we interject. So, for example, in the vocabulary sections, if the student already knows what they are, we don't want to waste time repeating and drilling those vocabulary words. Same thing in the later sentences. If a student knows it, good, we can cover it and we're done. So just let them kind of speak about it first. We can probe them with different questions. And then once we see what they're lacking, we can fill in those blanks and fill in those empty spaces. Also, with our puppet, the older the students get, the more obvious it is to them that our puppets do not exist and they are not real. So just be adaptable. If you notice a student is getting bored with the puppet, or if you notice a student doesn't want to see the puppet, that's totally fine as well. There's been some teachers that have actually will say, wait, did you know you're not real? Things like that, and just roll with it. So be adaptable, structured, but adaptable, all in a nice balance, right? So as far as I am concerned, those are the most important tips and tricks that I've seen for our elementary levels. In our next videos, we're going to talk about the intermediate level as well as the advanced level. And then we'll go into some of our courseware, or our platform rather. So sit tight. I hope this helped a lot. Again, any questions at all, feel free to come to anyone here at the 3-1 ABC and staff, and we will help you out. So keep it up, and we'll see you again next time. Bye.